大家好，欢迎收看这期节目，我是王佑佑。这周末冬奥会就结束了，天天有比赛刷，作为观众我可是过了瘾。那作为一个财经记者，看比赛之余，我也在琢磨运动员们还有体育赛事的商业价值。在谷爱凌爆红之前，冰雪运动里还没有出现过商业价值如此之高的女性运动员。虽然谷爱凌现在势头正劲，但暂时还没有超过滑雪界顶流美国男运动员商 White。我又想起来不久前逆转绝杀拿下亚洲杯冠军的女足姑娘们霸屏热搜榜，但为啥姑娘们成绩比男足好，却赚的比他们少呢？而且这种情况不仅是在中国，在美国也很普遍。像是美国女足拿了4届世界杯冠军，商业价值也比男足高，但还是拿不到男足的薪水，一怒之下把美国足协告上法庭，要求同工同酬。今天我请来在美国体育市场营销行业里摸爬滚打多年的 Frederick 教授来跟我们分析分析体育圈男女薪酬咋差这么多，运动员们是怎么吸金的。
The pay gap between men and women athletes is extremely skewed. It's extraordinarily common. It's not unique to China. It's not unique to the US. It's a worldwide challenge to get parity in pay for men and women in sports, particularly when women are more accomplished in the sports. The sports industry is a business. It's a multi-billion-dollar global business. And again, no matter where you live, business is about dollars and cents. So if you look at it through that lens, women's sports have not always, and sometimes still don't. This is not the case everywhere though. Women's sports have not always generated as much revenue, but when you're talking about the expense of putting on an event, it's still the same cost to put on an event. If we just look at the last 100 years, women's sports have really only become popular in the last 20 to 25. Women's sports are not marketed the same. And so if you're not marketing them the same, if you're not intentionally and strategically trying to capture fans and to generate revenue and to market merchandise, then you're not going to reap anything because you didn't invest anything. If you invest more and then you spend more time being strategic and intentional about your marketing, you would find that not only are there opportunities to make money with women's sports, and many women are controlling the purse strings as consumers in their homes, in their families, or as single women. So women are very savvy when it comes to how they spend their money. So there may be things that you could market to them, not just the game, but the merchandise or events around an event.
But if you invest more, they probably will have more commercial value. It's a positive cycle if you started the investment.
Absolutely. And I think what you said is key, is it's a cycle. And so you've got to jump into the cycle somewhere. And then you have to keep the cycle going. So I think with women's sports, we got to figure out where are we going to just jump in. We just got to jump into the cycle and then pour more energy, pour more money, pour more attention, pour more value, pour more investments. One of my favorite campaigns of all time in terms of marketing, I think it was in 2014, Under Armour did a massive campaign called I Will What I Want. Under Armour, a company founded by a man, mostly trying to develop new equipment for men's sports. But as that company grew and matured, they wanted a bigger slice of the pie from women. And so they created, they invested, and they designed a campaign that would target women. And they didn't just target women who played soccer, and they didn't just target women who played basketball or some of these more common sports. They targeted women who might like those sports, but they also targeted women in sports or who were athletes in ways you hadn't thought about, so that they could capture a different audience of women. They wanted to build upon that. And it was a really successful campaign. They actually, it proved to be very profitable, and it was also award-winning. That there is value and there is reward when you invest in diversity. And diversity in this case is gender, is women's sports. There is something there, and there's money to be made, and there's profit to be made, and there's media exposure to be gained. Those are all things of value. So you have to have people in those rooms and at those tables making decisions with the business leaders who have the power of the dollar.
The U.S. women's national team sued the NCAA in 2020, and now they're still negotiating. So that case, how big of an impact of this case on the sports industry just for equal pay?
I think it's huge. I think that the greatest thing that we're going to see out of the women's team suing is as they win their battles, it will make a difference slowly, not overnight, but slowly. And as they win their battles, it'll set the tone for others to follow around the world. I think it's going up incrementally though. I don't think we're going to see a straight line up. So we don't have to be limited to just the salary line. There are other ways that women athletes can pursue compensation that will get them closer and will get them more income outside of just that salary. Michael Jordan has made far more money. He's a billionaire, but he's not a billionaire because he was an NBA player. And whether you think he was the greatest of all time or whether you think he's one of the greatest of all time, I think most people will fall in either category. But the reality is he's a billionaire because endorsement deals. He's a billionaire because of his business deals. He's a billionaire because he took his name, image, and likeness and he leveraged it beyond the game that he played on the court. That's something women can do in any sport, anywhere in the world, and not sit and wait for somebody to give them equal pay. That's another strategic way of going about it. And the nice thing about them, and I definitely have been following Alan Goo's story, is that when you can be a unicorn, you actually have more power to effect change. And they are what I like to call unicorns. And I mean that in the most positive light. And then you add the fact that she's young. Like anything that makes you distinctive, anything that distinguishes you from others, in addition to the fact that you're great at what you do, gives you more leverage. And the more leverage you have, the more deals you can make, the more money you can make, the more sponsors you can get. But it also gives you visibility and it gives you exposure. It puts you in a place where all eyes are on you. And when you have that platform, you have more power to effect change. And so that's the beauty of it. And the thing when you have someone like her, and so when little girls see that, then they see themselves in that person. It makes that a possibility now.
I knew that the Olympics were going to be in China, and I think that this actually offered a really good opportunity because a lot of people were going to watch the Olympics who perhaps hadn't heard of the sport before, look at their TVs and say, hey, we're the same age and she's out there doing that, I can too.
这届北京冬奥会可是迄今女性参赛比例最高、参与项目最多的一届。希望未来女性运动员们不仅可以越来越多的参与，在冲击事业巅峰的同时，身价也蹭蹭蹭的暴涨。感谢收看这期节目，我是王佑佑，再会。别忘了下载凤凰新闻客户端，关注又又切克闹。